turn our attention to the French newspapers. Elena is here with us today. We're talking about French tax, in fact, today. Who's avoiding them? It's making all the front pages, isn't it?
It's French tax too taxing. It is, according to Le Figaro. They've got the cry of alarm of businesses against Hollande's policies as a headline today. Now, they're upset about various things, including his wanting to protect workers' rights, raise taxes on businesses and on the rich, and raise the minimum wage. They say it makes French business hopelessly uncompetitive. Now, they are, of course, jumping off from what David Cameron said at the G20 in Mexico a couple of days ago, when he said he would roll out the red carpet for any French fiscal exiles who fancy coming to Britain. Now, that's upset a lot of people in the UK who seem to think he's encouraging people to evade their taxes. But Le Figaro, anyway, thinks he's got exactly the right idea, that he's picked up on everything that's wrong with Hollande's policies. So, do the French pay too much tax? That's the front page headline here over at Le Parisien this morning. They say on the inside that Hollande is planning a €29 billion tax bombshell. They've added together an assortment of different things, including the planned financial transaction tax, a raise in inheritance tax, the ending of some tax loopholes for rich people and businesses that Sarkozy introduced, and that, of course, famous 75% tax on millionaires, which he says will be not introduced at the very earliest until the autumn, if it ever is. There's some doubting voices in the press saying that that flagship measure might never actually happen. But so the €29 billion figure is a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly some people think the French pay too much tax, like the very famous former Roland Garros tennis champion Yannick Noah, who's very famous here in France and very popular, but who was hauled up in front of a Senate committee yesterday to explain why he's paid no French taxes since 1993. They reckon he owes them a large sum of money, and he says he's been living in Switzerland since then to avoid French tax. He's very proud of that, and he would advise any French citizens not to live in France because the tax burden is so high.
You say he's very popular. He's also very honest, isn't he? OK, interesting stuff from Yannick Noah. What about French politics? Of course, we've now got the right searching for their future strategy, I suppose.
Yes, here they all are, some key figures of the French right on the front page of Libération. They do seem to be singing. I'm not sure what they're singing, but anyway, the right is at bay is the headline, and on the inside they've done an interesting diagram. They've plotted them against some axes with Nicolas Sarkozy in the middle and tried to work out where all these different figures of the right stand. The thing is, they stand enormously different positions to one another, from those who are most economically liberal to those who are most interventionist, those who are most against the idea of any kind of cooperation with the Front National, and those who most feel that the mainstream right does actually have, as Nadine Morano put it, values in common with the Front National. Now, this is the big debate, of course, within the UMP. Those who believe that they already have gone too far in courting the Front National electorate have, of course, jumped on this weekend's defeat to say this was a mistake that we made, we shouldn't make it again, we should go back to that attitude that Chirac took in 2002 when he refused to debate with Jean-Marie Le Pen when they both got through to the second round. But there's another faction within the party who are equally vocal, who reckon that they lost because they were too centrist. The problem, Libération says, why there's so much division in the party is because Nicolas Sarkozy, under his reign, didn't really take any fixed ideological positions on anything. He just sort of jumped into what was most electorally convenient. Le Canard Enchaîné, the satirical paper, is getting very critical about this today as well. They say essentially that the same people who in 2002 still voted for Chirac because there was such a wall being built at the time between Jean-Marie Le Pen and the mainstream right, they were so taboo to vote for the Front National, those same people now are voting for what the Canard Enchaîné calls fascists. So something has gone badly wrong, they say, in French right-wing politics.
People are also starting to talk about the Rio summit, which we mentioned in the news. It's on Humanité's front page.
Yes, is it in vain, they ask on the front page, is there any point having yet another summit about third world development and environmental issues 20 years after the first big one in Rio? They say the thing that's mostly changed has been for the worse in the last 20 years. Those corporate interests that are very keen to avoid any environmental regulation, especially in the US, have gained more power and more lobbying influence over the last 20 years to stop the US government, especially signing up to anything that would restrict their right to pollute at will. Now, this just isn't an issue about animals and plants, they point out. It's also an important social justice issue, and it shouldn't be being discussed as it is separately from the world economy at the G20, but together is what they would like to see, because we should realise that it's those who are at the bottom end of the economic food chain anyway, like people living in Bangladesh, for example, who are going to be the worst affected by global warming and rising sea levels.
And Elena, of course, has saved lots of time at the end of her newspaper review to talk about her favourite subject. It's football.
It's for you, Stuart. hopefully feeling quite happy after England did rather better last night than we
Well, they
might
won, but it was a
generally have
terrible
expected.
game. So
They've already exceeded expectations,
That's
which
probably true.
I've never known lower actually in recent years of international competitions. But they at least did not do as bad as the French, who've also got through to the next round. But there's a bit of a ... at the end of that headline on the front of Le Parisien, rather understandably, because inside the paper says it was an unfortunate reminder of the days of Raymond Domenech, and of course those are pretty bad memories for French fans with the 2010 World Cup, where of course the players went on strike and refused to train. They haven't done that yet, but they did play rather badly to lose against Sweden last night. They're going through to play against Spain, but unless they really improve their form, there's not much hope that they'll prevail against the tournament favourites.
can I ask you what you think their tactics should be next time round? Silence. Summed it up
being
well.
mean.
Elena, thank you very much. Elena Casas there with the Fresh Newspapers on Smack.